All right, Groovesters and Groove Stars, Ridgely here with another fantastic Groove Growth program. And I'm super, super excited to present to the Groove community one of my dear, dear friends. We go way back, and it's dear Dedra. There you go. Deidre Sirianni from Radically Aligned is the name of her company, and she is that radical person, as you can see if you're watching this. And Dedra, I've been excited. We've been talking about doing this for a while now. Finally, we have the chance to do it. And you show up with this super boss hat on. How'd that happen?
Well, you know what? I woke up this morning. I was like, I got to show up for Ridgely. I got to wear my hat. I got to be in my flow, right? I got to bring it.
That for sure. And we're so glad that you did. So before we get started, though, because you do a lot of things that are very transformational, and I know that the Groove community is going to take a lot from that. But tell us your story. What's the backdrop of all of this? How did you get into all of this?
Wow. Well, there's quite a few things, but we'll keep it simple. About 7 years ago, I was sitting at my kitchen table and I was putting my fingers through my hair, as those of us who have long hair do sometimes, maybe not Ridgely, but I was putting my fingers through my hair and I noticed that something fell off, and I immediately thought, you know what? It must be that scar from when I fell when I was 5 years old. And then quickly I was like feeling around. I'm like, nope, that's not it. So I grabbed my phone and I raced to the bathroom and I put on camera mode. I'm angling it at the back of my head with the mirror. And I'm like, what is going on here? And oh my gosh, I have a bald spot that's this big. So pretty big bald spot, left top back corner of my head. And I'm just like, what's going on? How did this happen? How do I fix this? Right? Like, oh my gosh, there's something going on the top of my head. How do I hide this? So I go back to my kitchen table to ground for a moment. And that's when I hear this voice say, if you don't listen to your soul, you're going to manifest cancer and die in a year.
Ouch.
Yeah. And then I have a flashback to 5 years prior, the only other time at this point in my life I ever heard this voice say anything to me. And I have pink roses in my hands, my favorite flowers. I'm wearing a beautiful white wedding gown. I'm over facing the water. I have friends to my right, to my left. They're, in white chairs facing the water. I have my friend Marty up front playing the guitar and singing the song by James Blunt. It's beautiful, it's true. And I'm walking down the aisle and this same voice says, this just isn't going to work. Well, at this point in my life, I didn't know what that voice meant. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was marrying the man of my dreams. Everything from the outside looking in, aside from this voice in this moment, was telling me I was doing the right thing. Now, 5 years later, as I'm sitting in that chair in my kitchen, I'm like, wow, I have chronic pain. My massage therapist actually fired me, Ridgely. She's like, I can't help you anymore. Right?
Wow. Okay.
And yeah, so she fired me. She's like, I'm sorry, I can't help you anymore with your pain. I had 4 different types of autoimmune disease the doctors couldn't help me with. And I was depressed. I didn't really want to be alive anymore. But from the outside looking in, everything looked like I was happy. I was successful. I had it all together. In my marriage, I couldn't stand being around my husband because every single time I was around him, he was telling me who to be, how to be, when to talk, when not to talk. And I always felt sick to my stomach. So I'm sitting there at my kitchen table 7 years ago, and I'm like, wow, could it be that this entire time my soul has been communicating to me and trying to give me a message since that one time when I was walking down the aisle and I didn't listen, and I just haven't been listening. Mm-hmm. And so I knew that if I didn't change my life, if I didn't learn how to listen to my soul, that I wasn't going to be around for another year because I was getting really, really sick. Mm-hmm. And so I did. I learned the language of the soul. And, from that, now today I help people listen to the soul, honor and understand what's going on from the inside out so that they can live a life of alignment and then make the biggest impact with their gifts. Since that moment 7 years ago, just 3 months into learning the language of the soul and going deep into it, I healed myself of 3 of the 4 autoimmune diseases. My chronic pain went away. My depression went away. The anxiety went away. Food sensitivities went away. I had more energy. Everything that was a problem was no longer a problem for me because I learned the language of the soul. So it's something I'm super passionate about teaching, but it's just one of the pillars of what I teach.
Wow. Well, first of all, that's an amazing story, right? I'm sure all the people that are listening are like, well, are you going to share a little bit about this language of the soul stuff? Because the rest of us really want to know. We're very inquiring minds in the Groove community.
Totally. Yeah, I'd love to share more. So there's different pillars of the work that I do. Stage 1 is really about releasing everything that's not you. So when I left my relationship 5 years ago, I had to release identities and my personality that was keeping me in a dynamic in not just my marriage, but many areas of my life that was getting me sick, and I wasn't fully living in my purpose. The second stage that I support people with is really activating your gifts. So we're kind of like Christmas trees. We have lights wrapped all around us and within us, but most people only have like 1, 2, maybe three of those lights turned on. So I help really like light you up from the inside out. And then the third stage is actualizing your genius, actualizing your gifts into reality so that you can go out there and make the biggest impact and have the most amount of fun, because that's what it's all about, right?
And I know that you actually have a book called Turn Your Lights On, right? Which is kind of, there it is. Oh, there's a copy of it, Turn Your Light On. And I know that's a not for sale book.
Not for resale. Comes out on June 21st.
Wow, fantastic. Well, congratulations to that for that. That's very exciting, but major accomplishment for sure. So where do we start? Where can we start with our Groove community? What do you want to share with us? We love to learn about how to be better people, how to open up, how to turn our light on. That's what Groove Growth is all about. It's like, hey, wow, cool, we're ready. Give it to us.
I love it. I love it. So the most important thing to first look at is your personality versus your true identity, and really knowing the difference between it. Most people aren't living in their full potential, are stuck in unhealthy dynamics, habits, patterns, and ways of being, and also ways of like really suffering and causing more suffering to other people in the world because we're stuck in our personality. So the first things first is what makes up our personality. It's who we think we are, right? Who we think we should be, you know, the shoulds where it's like, I should do this. This will make me happy. All the things that we do that we think that we should do. The next is who other people think we are, who other people think we should be. And we all have those roles, our parents, family members, people that we know in community where it's like, oh, I have to play this role when I'm around them. Those are parts of us that we play in our personality. Another thing that's really important to look at is our past experiences, our traumas. Anything negative that's happened and brought up this like really strong emotion that gets triggered in our life, that definitely shapes our personality, because it's where we go, where we don't go, what we say yes to, what we shy away from, right? And I know if you're in this Groove community right now, you probably have really big dreams, right? Maybe you've had a vision of being on stage in front of thousands of people. Maybe you want to write a book. Maybe you have this big vision of starting like a foundation. I don't know. But the thing is, the things that are blocking you right now, that block all of us, is all of these parts of our personality and definitely our traumas. And the thing is, a lot of the time with trauma, we don't even think it's a trauma. We're like, oh, it's something that happened when I was younger. It wasn't a big deal, you know? And when we're stuck in those cycles, or even in just an empowerment stage of healing, we actually haven't gone to the root of it. So I'd love to jam on that for a moment, if I may.
For sure. Okay. How do we get to that? I mean, obviously, I think there are a lot of people that probably heard what you just said and said, I wonder if that is me. I wonder if that's going on in my world. How do I figure that out? And what do I do about it?
Yeah, so there's different ways to look at it, but I'll share a story on someone that I was working with. So there was someone I was working with, and she went to all these different business coaches and people who were helping her with her business strategy, which is awesome because strategy and implementation is so important. So many people don't do that. But no matter what she did in her business, even though she was on stages, she had a book and she had all this exposure, she kept being capped financially. So she kept having like this block of like, once I hit this number, like no matter what I do extra, I'm on a hamster wheel, I'm working harder, I'm doing all the things, but more money isn't coming in and I don't know what it is. So within a session, we found that the root of her not bringing in more money came down to a trauma that she dismissed because she's like, oh, it was just my dad getting mad at me once when I was younger. Nothing too bad happened. He just yelled at me. And basically the story was when she was probably like 7 or so, she asked for more. I don't remember what it was. And she's publicly shared this online, so it's okay that I'm sharing the story. She asked for more and he got mad and told her it wasn't okay to ask for more. So now in her adult life, in her 40s, and she has a business and she's feeling stuck, she's like, oh my gosh, the reason why I'm not making more money is because I don't think it's safe to ask for more. And so we had to do a process to complete that experience. And from doing a completion of that experience, now her business has grown because she no longer has that imprint, that trauma. So a trauma, and if you want to learn more about trauma, I have a TEDx on it. Maybe we'll drop the link below if you want to like learn more about it. But essentially, anytime we have a trauma, we have an image, a thought, a body sensation, an emotion, and then also energetics that gets stuck in the moment. So if we're talking right now or we're watching a movie, everything's moving and flowing. This is how we go. This is how we operate most of the time, right? But in a trauma, it's something that gets frozen in time. And what happens is we grow up, we move on, we do all of these things every day, but on a subconscious level, on an energetic level, on a feeling level, on a thinking level, on a just being level, we get triggered by old events. And most of the time, we're not even aware of it. And then instead of saying yes to that opportunity, we say no. Instead of saying yes to that relationship, we sabotage it. Instead of saying yes to that money, we block it away, or energetically we're saying no because on a deeper level, we don't feel safe. So because we have these traumas, we usually are pushing away what we want and we're moving against our true identity, which is infinite abundance, it's infinite opportunity, it's flow, it's your wildest dreams fully expressed is your true identity. So until we've completed that trauma and you fully experienced it and released those imprints, you're not going to be operating from a space of being conscious. There's a lot of mindset work, which is really helpful. But if you're unconscious of the subtle things that you're saying yes and no to, or even your energetics and your belief systems from those moments, well, you're not a conscious creator. You're operating from your default mode. And just like a computer that needs to be upgraded, like our smartphones need to be updated like what, every month or so? I'm like, another update? Are you kidding me? We need to do that too, right?
But it's so funny you would say that because I have this love-hate relationship with technology.
Right.
And that love-hate relationship consists of, I don't care whether I like it or not. In order for me to continue succeeding and staying au courant, if you will, I have to learn new technology all the time. So I've actually started, and I'd love just I know we're down a rabbit hole for just a second, but I'd love your take on this. I've actually started talking to myself differently and saying, I love technology. We wouldn't be anywhere without technology. I think technology is amazing. I think technology is awesome. Even though inside it's kind of like this push me, pull you relationship because we couldn't have this amazing conversation right now and share this with people all over the world if it weren't for technology. So there's obviously that beauty in there, and I need to be, or at least I feel that I'm beginning to embrace and recognize the beauty of the technology as opposed to the frustration of, oh my gosh, I'm not 20 anymore. It's freaking me out.
I love that. I love it because you're choosing how you want to feel by telling yourself this is how I feel about it, right? That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, and I think that these lessons what I find about personal growth and why I love groove growth is that you're constantly refining and
Mm,
optimizing and tweaking. It's like, because everybody in Groove is in the Groove platform, it's kind of like a sales funnel. You got
right.
to optimize the sales funnel. You got to tweak the sales funnel. You got to look at it. You got to love it. You got to do this. You got to do that. And it seems like the process of being a human being is a
Mhm.
lot like that. How do I take
Mm,
the fact that my stepfather was incredibly abusive to me and my brothers when I was young and turn that into what is now a golden memory?
right.
Because I'm so happy and blessed to be where I am today. And that was a part of it. So now there's no longer that. Now, who knows how many traumas are still stuck in there somewhere, right, that need to come out and be sorted, if you will. But for me, at least in my spiritual practice and ongoing studies, it's a continuous process of reflection, self-reflection, and always remembering that nobody can make me happy except me.
Right.
And the only process that's going to get me there is my own inner transformation, or what I call human revolution,
Love
right?
that.
And the human revolution is, hey, I cherish my wife, and yet she can't make me happy. She can compliment. It's like, that's like the cherry on top of the cake. But as Jim Rohn used to say, my mentor, he would say, happiness is an inside job.
Mm-hmm. I love that. That's so beautiful.
So tell us a little more. I'm digging this. You're stuck in your personality versus discovering, uncovering, and allowing to emerge your
Yeah.
personality, your true identity. Sorry.
Yeah. So with our traumas or experiences, it can be something super subtle that happens, right? But it can lodge in a way of being that blocks off what we want, whether it's more abundance, more joy, more fulfillment, saying yes to things that we want, following through on things, whatever it is. So when we complete the experience, there's different ways of doing that. We have the freedom of choice without kind of being in our own way, which can cause a lot of unhappiness and frustration. And then forcing ourselves to be a way that's inauthentic or out of alignment or trying to force things, right? I love that you just shared something on, I just want to riff on this for a second around the golden memories. I believe that our core traumas or our core wounds, whatever we want to call them, when we have the courage to actually heal them, it doesn't mean you have to go to therapy for 10 years. You can, there's different ways of going about it. But when we have the courage to actually go in it and heal them on a deeper level, that's where our greatest gifts for humanity come in. So for you, I know for you, whatever happened when you were younger, it's actually some of your superpowers that now you're gifting to the world and your community. Because when we have these experiences, we also build up our superpowers, right? So for me, because I squashed my soul and this wisdom for so long, I am super aligned with soul. I'm very intuitive. People's bodies and souls and higher selves communicate to me all the time. And so it helps me be really good at what I do. So it's like when we have the courage to do this work, everything opens up, right? So, go ahead.
No. I think I think it's important to just acknowledge one thing, and that is that it is a courageous act to do
Mm,
this. And courage, interestingly enough, you're being in Canada, cœur means in French is heart.
yes,
So courage is the age of the heart. And it
right.
takes that heart, bringing out that heart to do this. In Buddhism, they have a saying that says, one of the hardest things you will ever do is to open the heavy, creaking, groaning door that is your life and take a look.
Wow. I love that. I just got goosebumps.
So,
I this
go
is
ahead.
this is the work, right? This is like the work. It's like deconstructing our personality, who we think we are, who we think we should be, who other people think we are, who other people think we should be. Looking at our traumas not from a place of having to be stuck in it, but like, how can I move this forward and complete it what are the stories I'm going to tell myself moving forward? And also, what are my core belief systems? And one of the things that I really love to look at that's actually been the biggest game changer in my own life is to look at my results, because our results prove our belief systems. People will say, oh, no, I believe this. I believe in true love. I believe I can be this. It's like, well, if it's not in your reality as results right now, it means that it's not a core belief system, which means the personality work has to be done, because you might be bypassing your core beliefs and doing the work and talking about like someone else's language from a book, which we all do, right? But until you've actually embodied it and like really got the change in your life, you actually don't believe it yet. Like you haven't actually embodied it. So that's really the work that needs to be done to step into your true identity.
You know, it's interesting because I had a conversation with my daughter, who is very, very devoted to her career as a ballerina. And
Right.
so relationships, partying, having a good time, everything is secondary to ballet. Everything.
I love this.
He's like, no, ballet is first. And yes, I'm dating this guy, but he knows that ballet is first.
Yeah.
He knows that I'm not available during the week. I'm only available on the weekend and whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I was looking to share with her the difference between that being in love in that crazy phase of early, woo, amazing sparks flying all over the place, and being in a deeper love. And what's interesting is the word that came out of my mouth, which surprised me a little bit, and I'd love to get your take on this, is, yeah, I love my wife very much. We have a great relationship, and it's also a successful relationship. We complement each other in many, many ways that go beyond that we share a bedroom or that we have family members that we go see together. It's like, I don't do this particularly well, she does. She doesn't do this particularly well, I do. She would know more. She would have a heart attack to get on a stage with you and I. A heart attack. I mean, I just, the act of bringing it up stresses her out, right? So that's not, but behind the scenes, she's incredible. Yeah. And I defined the relationship to my daughter as successful. And I said, in addition to loving someone and still being attracted to that person, I also hope that your relationship is successful. What do you think of that?
I really love this, actually. Like me personally, in the space that I'm in, like I was married, divorced, dated a little bit, not a big dater, but if I'm going to be in relationship with someone, I want them to have the same life path as me, right? The same vision, the same kind of, like the same vision of what they want to create and be a part of. If that's not in alignment, I'm not going on a date with them. I know that sounds pretty intense, but I think in life, a lot of the time we look at our chemistry to someone and we're like, oh, they're hot or they're this or they're that. But like, is it actually aligned with your higher vision of self? And if it's not, it can be something that pulls you down. And as you know, the people you surround yourself with impact. I know for me, if I were to stay in that relationship years ago, I would have got cancer because I was getting really sick. But also, I think a lot of people are in relationships that aren't helping them grow and evolve and supporting each other. And that's why they're not stepping into their full potential. That's one of the things that comes up a lot in my coaching with people is like, oh, this relationship. I'm like, yeah, you have all these memories and all these fun times, but it's not aligned with where you're going. So of course it's going to be blocking you. So I love that reflection of a healthy, successful relationship. That's awesome.
Thank you. I'm not suggesting that it doesn't take a lot of work also, by the way.
I know you do a lot of mantras or chanting.
I do a lot of chanting and I'm constantly reminded of one of my favorite sayings, and it's been coming up for me recently in the work that I do is, and we have to remember that the only place that success comes before work is in the dictionary. You got to do the work if you want to be successful. I don't care if it's on your personality, on your relationship, on your finances, on your health. You just have to do the work. If you want to be in shape, you got to work out and eat well. If you eat poorly and never work out, I guarantee you're not going to be in shape. It's kind of like karmically aligned in that way. Cause and effect is very, very strict.
Yeah. And I love this too, because it's about taking, I really believe in being radically responsible for how you show up. And I don't show up around people unless I'm at a pretty close 100%. And I'll spend hours getting myself into a state if I need to, but I take responsibility. So I think taking responsibility for how we show up is one of the best things that we can do to create fulfillment and happiness, but also to make sure that what we're putting out there matters and it impacts people in the way that we want to impact people. So I love this conversation, Ridgely. So good.
Responsibility, the ability to respond in the moment. And I've been having another piece that's been coming out in dialogues recently a lot is how so much of the way in which we A, view the world, B, show up in the world, and C, act in the world is dependent on our life state or life condition. And if your life condition is low, and you're all bummed out and gloomy and whatever, everything you see is bummed out and gloomy. Like I look out the window and there's a lot of sunshine and there's some clouds. And if I'm in a gloomy, depressed state, I'm going to see the clouds and not the sunshine. If I'm in a higher life condition, then I'm going to see both and say, wow, those clouds are beautiful. And look at that sunshine, right? And so the need for us to constantly find tools, sources, like your work, for me, also my spiritual practice, to elevate the life state on a constant basis, because I find, and I'd love to hear your take on this, that your life state or your life condition is a lot like a garden. If you don't weed it and constantly pull out the weeds, you can't have a beautiful, abundant garden. The life condition has to be closely monitored. And as the negativity comes in or creeps in or is thrown at you from the media, from the barrage, from the people or whatever, you have to guard against that stuff and constantly be plucking it out and getting rid of it, or else your life condition is low and everything is going to look according to what that life condition sees it.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things that I do every single morning, and I do it before I step into a meeting, I get my clients to do, it's in my book, it's in all my things, is I create an intention every single day. How do I want to feel? Because I'm choosing that. Because we're choosing it. Because we can remind ourselves, how do I want to show up? Which is the energy that I bring. What am I committed to? Maybe something I'm struggling with that I want to be better at. And what's my desired outcome? And when we ask ourselves these questions, we become conscious creators. And this is Prince. And we continue to move that forward. So being a conscious creator is about choice. And of course, coming back to watering our own garden, pulling out the weeds, and also choosing the environments that we're in that we're going to thrive in. So love this conversation. Yeah.
I know it's so interesting. I have very, very gradually made my relationship with yoga something that is very positive. I started out with my attitude was, you really ought to go to yoga. And then it became, I never regret going to yoga after it's over. Not that I really wanted to go, right? I just never regret it at the end. To then, I'm liking certain classes, but not some other ones. Right. To then find, but one of the things that I noticed is this. When I set an intention at the beginning of my yoga practice, which now is virtually always, the intention carries me through some of those thoughts that start creeping in, like, I really wish I wasn't here. I'd much rather be sitting at home having a glass of Chardonnay, whatever, whatever thoughts that come in, the intention helps to carry me through to the end of the practice. And I've never walked out yet. So I think that setting an intention for everything that we do is so key, so that we have that staying power, if nothing else. And of course, much more is possible, but at least you got the staying power to stick it out, because the world is run by people who show up.
Yeah, Absolutely. And it's like there's a 3-step process that I talk about a lot that's transformed my life. It's radical honesty, courage, and showing up. So you got to get honest with yourself, have courage to do the difficult things, and then take action and show up. And having the intention is the direction, like pulling back a bow and arrow and being like, this is where I'm going, and I'm going to quiet everything else out of the way. So intention is so foundational.
What else do you want to share with my fabulous community that I'm sure is falling in love with Deidre as I have many years ago?
Well, thank you, Ridgely. I would just love to like invite anyone who's watching right now to connect. I have a really beautiful quiz that you can take that's going to illuminate what stage of turning your light on. It's about waking up to the truth of who you are and who you're meant to be. We've got a quiz below, so it will give you an assessment of what actually is in your way and what's the work that you need to focus on. And then I have a signature program where we do that work and a few other things below. So I'd just love to connect and hear what resonated with you today, and for you to take the quiz and see what stage you're at and reach out and let me know what resonated. That would be great. I'd love to connect with your community.
For sure. Well, I'll tell everybody, as I always do, hit the button below and go check out Deidre's stuff. But I have a few more questions.
Sure, yeah.
I have a few more questions. This is a question. I'm doing a series called Lessons from the CEO.
Okay.
And in this series, Lessons from the CEO, these are people who they're not in our space. They're not teachers or gurus or visionary leaders in this space. They run companies, right? So, and I'm blessed that I have many, many of them as friends. So I've been asking them this question. If you were speaking to the Dedra of 10 years ago, what would today's Dedra want to share with her?
Whoa, that's so good. I mean, it's all going to happen. All you have to do is have more fun. Like the more you lean into fun, the more you lean into your weirdness, the more you just go with the flow, the more things are going to happen and the quicker they're going to happen for you.
I like that a lot. And tell me, if you were recommending to people who are on the path, 3 books that they need to read, or 3 podcasts they need to listen to, or 3 pieces of something that they could glean more from, what would you recommend? What would those 3 be?
I think a game changer book is the War of Art, or the Art of War. I'm forgetting the order of that.
Art of War.
Yeah, The Art of War by Stephen Pressfield. Really good. Talks about resistance and how it shows up. Definitely the Turn Your Light On book, because I break a lot of things down. And then another book that's been a game changer for me is The Emissaries of Light by James Twyman, but that's more of like a being on your soul's journey and his story, but I absolutely love it. So I'd say those 3 books. And then also The Big Leap by Gary Hendricks, I think is his last name. That's a really good one.
What's that about? What about that attracts you?
That one's about upper limiting and understanding how your upper limiting is showing up and blocking you from taking that big leap. Because most of us stay in our comfort zone. We might tell ourselves that we're expanding, but we're sidestepping. And his book is all about taking the big leap, like following your dreams and saying yes to what's in front of you. And it's just a really great book.
Okay, so now I got another question for you.
This is fun.
And these things just come to me, and I know that I can tap into the Deidre wisdom, and we have a few more minutes.
Okay.
And that is this. This social media thing is a wacky thing, right? Yeah. It's given people voices. It's helped in so many ways. And yet, of course, the people that are propounding to be uber successful are not as successful as they are for the most part. The people that are talking about the weight are exaggerating how much they lost and forgetting about the other piece. There's the stretching of the truth thing. And when I was listening to, being stuck in your personality, does that include that stretching of the truth thing and looking for your true identity and being able to be happy where you really are and then being courageous and doing the difficult things so that you can show up. All of that mixed together. What do you say to those people who they're kind of faking it a little more than is healthy?
Yeah, I mean, it's a way of overcompensating, right? Like we fake it till you make it, overcompensate, all those things, but really comes down to insecurity usually, and trying to prove something and seeking validation. So until we've done the inner work and we're like, oh, I'm just trying to get likes and, I'm trying to get external validation, but at the end of the day, what are you going to be most proud of? Like, are you going to be most proud of all the likes that you get on social media for what you're sharing and your accomplishments? Is that really going to make you feel good at night? Or are you going to go to bed at night being like, I like who I am because I'm doing what I love? So that's a question to ask yourself. But also personally, like I only spend maybe like 20 minutes on social media a day. I post, I follow a few clients, I like and comment on their stuff, and then I'm out. And I have all my notifications on my phone off, even my ringer, even my voicemail says, don't leave me a voicemail. I don't check it. So I have really good boundaries because I don't want to get distracted with other people's stuff. And I think that as creators, as those of us who want to expand and create a legacy, it really isn't about social media. People who are the most successful in the world aren't big on social media. The people who bring the most amount of value aren't necessarily the people with the most amount of followers. So you got to ask yourself, do you want to create followers in the world, or do you want to create leaders and create a legacy? Because those are two completely different things. And I think most people don't think of it that way. They're just thinking about, I want to be popular. Well, we're not in high school, and it's about listening to your soul and getting in line with that and quieting the noise with everything that's not, and asking yourself the deeper questions. What's driving my action here? Is it my heart? Is it my soul? Or is it lack and wanting to be popular? And we got to move away from that if you really want to do the work that you're here to do.
Yeah, for sure. And that's profound, right? Because the distractions, here's the crazy thing. Think about this for a moment. So, like, as you said, the people who are the most successful are the people who are making a difference and touching the most people. But we as a public, we as a society, pay amazing amounts of money to individuals in order for them to distract us.
Right.
Athletes,
yeah,
actors, performers, etc. We're paying to be distracted from whatever our day-to-day life is.
Right.
And I would simply submit to people, maybe you want to spend a little bit more time designing what you want to have happen for you in your existence, so that you can enjoy the occasional distraction without feeling the need for a distractor.
Totally. I love that. And one of my mentors says, you're either a player in the game or you're a fan in the stands. Who are you going to be? Are you going to be a content person who's taking in everyone else's stuff and judging them or trying to like be cool or whatever that is? Or are you actually a player in the game who's doing the work? And those are two different people. One person's paying to watch the other people play. The other person's creating the things and the other people are watching. So those are two totally different mindsets. Those are two totally different lifestyles. And one involves a lot of commitment, a lot of discipline and showing up, even when it's difficult. And the other one's easy. It's easy. It's the easy path, but your soul is not going to be happy and you're going to feel like you're settling. So you got to choose who you're going to be.
All right. So as we're wrapping up here, and again, Groovesters, be sure, go check out Deidre's amazing content and her gifts to us. Final words to the Groove community. Deidre, what do you want to leave us with?
It's time to wake up to the truth of who you are and who you're meant to be. And it really comes down to whether or not you're courageous enough to jump all in and do the work. And when you do, you're going to come out on the other side and be so happy that you did. So thanks so much for having me. I'm looking forward to connecting with everyone. And Ridgely, always a pleasure chatting and hanging out with you.
Thank you, my dear. If you set yourself on fire, people will come from miles and miles around to watch you burn. Deidre, thank you so much for your time. I deeply appreciate you. Thank you on behalf of the entire Groove community. Much appreciated.
Lots of love.